Right back in the year 2000, Nokia's engineers and marketing teams made a video called One Day about the stories of a day in the life of 13 people and how they use and might in future use their mobile phone. The full video and discussion is elsewhere on this channel and linked at the end of this video. If you haven't seen that, you might want to watch that first. This, though, is the generic talking heads section from that video. Enjoy some suits from 2000 trying to predict 2010.
If you look at the history of consumer marketing, there have been many examples of technology that has been wonderfully capable and yet somehow didn't deliver the quality of experience that the consumer wanted, and therefore ultimately didn't succeed in the marketplace. We have a real challenge as an industry trying to understand how can we create, what are the right elements necessary to create an environment in which the consumer would say, I want to not only do this transaction wirelessly, but I believe that it is a secure environment. When you look at the huge licensing fees being paid for 3G, you have to figure out a way to not only generate revenue, but also reduce costs. And 3G and the Nokia solution in 3G creates that wonderful situation where we can actually drive costs down, particularly if you look at the radio access part of it, where we can save up to 50% of the total cost of a traditional radio access design, and radio access makes up almost 70% of the total cost. So you add those two figures together, you can see significant cost savings. I think the one very exciting part about Nokia and the networks business has been our steady progression on how the market has accepted our radio access technology, and by some accounts has now put us into the leadership position in that area. And the reason that that happened is that people have not only been satisfied with the quality of the technology and the level of service that it provides, but also that it is designed in a way that an operator can intelligently evolve their network to create these cost savings using a concept called the smart radio concept. And smart radio fundamentally not only creates decreased number of radios that are necessary in the network, but also increased capacity. As we make this transition from a 2G environment into the 3G environment, and we overlay on top of it some of the benefits of what the internet can bring to it, the internet was perhaps designed most for the fixed environment, and you need to overlay some additional components in order to optimize it for the mobile environment. And so IPv6 is really one of those necessary elements to increase the functionality and increase the overall capability of the internet in a mobile environment. What that brings along with it are things like quality of service, additional security, as well as a way to design the network for overall end-to-end solutions that can be optimized from a traffic flow standpoint. People aren't going to feel comfortable doing all these things in the mobile internet environment unless they can be assured that the security aspect is there. And IPv6 not only provides this quality of service element, but also the secure environment that is necessary to transact in. Trust has never been more important than it is at this time in our industry. We have this huge looming 3G licensing fees that are out there, and we all have to figure out collectively a way to pay for that. Many of us are putting our careers on the line by making these decisions. So if you have a period that has only occurred in our industry once before, 10 years ago, and you have these huge financial investments, and you have one of the most volatile transaction times in terms of decision making, and you combine all that at once, what does that create? It creates an environment where trust is held at a premium. And that's where we think, quite frankly, we've been investing year after year, day after day with our customers to create a trusted environment in which we both understand that we win and we succeed together. Technology is rapidly available from a variety of sources, and how is it that a company from a country of 5 million people can end up becoming a world leader? I think fundamentally it has to do with the people, that we try to be open-minded, we try to be progressive, and we try to partner with our customers, and it's that whole attitude, that whole experience of how we work that is driven by the quality people that we have. If you look at what's being said in that film, we believe not only as a manufacturer of infrastructure and terminals that this is going to become reality, but consumers are starting to pull us in that direction. It isn't just a matter of us pushing it on to people. People actually want these services. They want the improved flexibility in their life. They want the ability to do things that they can't do today in a wireless, mobile kind of way. And we hope that in conjunction with our customers, we can be the one that helps deliver it to them.
Nokia found out some time ago that when we build business models, we can help actually understand our customers' needs. So this was quite necessary in starting up mobile networks in the GSM world, and we started building business models to understand that environment, help create the kind of network that we need, and help deploy the network. As we approached more varied services through GPRS, WAP, and now going to 3G, then we found that actually we need more sophisticated models, deeper understanding of different kind of services, and then we started to develop our models for this kind of an environment. We've been working with business cases for just about all the operators, and with a market share of 30 to 40% depending on technology, we've of course done very deep work with very many of our customers. We look at the networks that they have and then help build the options that they have for the future and consider those different options. Part of these workshops is a business modeling process where we look at their current investment, their existing infrastructure and technology, and the various options that they're considering for the future. Looking at the actual customers that they expect to have, the kind of services they want to launch, the prices they want to have, segmentation, and then the impact of these to the network infrastructure. Most of the services in 3G or UMTS will require partnerships to deploy the services. Nokia can be a key part in enabling those partnerships. It becomes important to find the kind of partners that you want to be profitable with, understand the revenue sharing schemes, understand the different delivery content, who takes which responsibility. And in this case, you could handle that kind of negotiations for years. Nokia comes in and helps get the partners together quickly, provides a platform that helps deliver the services quickly, and make sure that the operator can be profitable quickly. When you're looking at the future, it's really important to get as good information as possible. And that is where Nokia is trying to help through Nokia's Wideband CDMA 3G Research Center. So we are actually performing on-the-field research of end-user behavior and end-user preferences, things like prices, what are they willing to pay, what kind of services would they like to have, what kind of service bundles they would like to use. And in this case, perhaps the best example is iMode in Japan. That is an environment and a kind of service that is very similar to what we will be seeing in 3G. And when we see the behavior in iMode, we can then make better predictions of what the UMTS or 3G usage will be, and the services will be like, and the customers will be like. One of the interesting aspects of iMode is that it has been taking off very rapidly, and the growth in subscribers is incredible. Perhaps the most interesting service there is the Bandai service that is being offered, which lets the users download individual pictures into their mobile phone every day. And this service is very popular. They want to see what happens to these characters. The cost is $1 a month, and there are a couple of million people who are currently downloading it. The service is generating something like $24 million a year. And yet the service is run by an organization of 10 people. So you can imagine it's extremely profitable for iMode. The big lesson that we've learned is that we've made modeling estimates of what the 3G environment might look like, and then we are generally estimating that revenues would typically double. Now, when we've looked at the first 20 months of iMode, we have found that iMode revenues in just a 20-month period have almost tripled. People like to think about the new technology, that it is about technology, 3G and UMTS. Actually, 3G is not at all about technology. It is really about services. When you look at the current environment, there are lots of services that show little hints of what will be coming in the future. For example, in Holland, it's possible to pay your parking ticket with your mobile phone. In Austria, you can pay your train ticket with a WAP phone and show the actual ticket on your mobile phone to the conductor, so you don't actually have any piece of paper. Swissair, for example, in Switzerland is providing announcements to its frequent flyers if your airplane is late, so you actually get an SMS message on your phone, so you don't have to actually go to the airport lounge to sit and wait. There's a public library in Finland which already sends notices to its customers via SMS if a book has arrived. It's cheaper to send the message, and the people pick the book up in one day. When I look at this film, I see in a real sense, the kind of services that the operators want to launch and are going to deploy over the next 2 or 3 years. And the operators are very anxious to make them successful, and it is wonderful to see that actually the end user would also find them appealing. We're looking at the merging of the telecom industry and the internet, the computer and the telephone. You're looking at content and you're looking at delivery. In that world, almost anything is possible.
In 1991, there were less than 10 million people in the world who had a mobile phone. In our view, in 2002, there will be more than 1 billion people in the world using a mobile phone, rising from the approximately 700 million that we have today. It's evident that this is the world's largest consumer electronics industry. That means that things like segmentation, product category management, category creation and development are key success factors, and this is one of the reasons that has brought Nokia to the #1 position. The segmentation competencies and know-how that we have, they are about methodology, but more than that, they are about attitude and mindset. Really to go to pains to understand that what is it that people want, what is it that they really need and prefer. Mobile phones today are very much lifestyle-related products. Different people have different lifestyles and preferences. Not only is one person different from another, it's also so that you as a person can be a different person in the morning and in the evening. So during your work hours, you have a need for one kind of a device with certain features and functions. But when you are in your spare time, you are a different person with different needs. We are lucky to be working in an industry where everybody play a role as individuals. We all have ears, we all have eyes, we all hear what our friends, what our colleagues, what our families are saying to us about our products, and we take all of this into account. A very important element in mobile internet is the relevance triangle. What is relevant to a given user at a given time, at a given place? Practically everybody today is a mobile phone customer, but at the same time, everybody is different. This may sound simple, but it has really fundamental implications and consequences. You have to have a product portfolio that offers different kind of products for different users with different usage needs. And this trend is only going to increase and strengthen as we approach the 3rd generation. We will have imaging phones, which are optimized for transmitting visual content. We will have media phones, which are optimized for accessing content from internet and intranets. And we will have communicators, which are integrated ultimate efficiency tools for mobile professionals. One of the key competitive factors that has played a role in Nokia's success is that we've always taken the user's needs as a starting point and only then utilized our technological competencies. When technology is becoming more and more complex and more difficult for people to understand and follow, the trust that people have towards the supplier, towards the brand, is a key element. Today, when I travel from Helsinki to London to give a presentation in a conference, I need my laptop, which I need to link to the data projector in the conference room, and so on. Tomorrow, all I need to take with me is my mobile terminal. The possibilities for new applications, new services enabled by technologies like Java, Bluetooth, wireless application protocol, mobile commerce, they are basically limited only by imagination. With Bluetooth, you can, for example, replace a wallet. You can utilize your mobile phone instead of your credit cards or instead of coins. In many respects, we are already living the mobile information society. It's happening right here, right now, today. The difference between today and tomorrow is that the quality of services and the array of applications and services is going to be on a completely different level. But I would say that the most important thing is that the services, the solutions, the products, they need to meet with real needs of real people out there. It's a wonderful, exhilarating time for all of us at Nokia because we see that we play our role in creating the future.
The film One Day, I think, describes very well the aspirations of the individuals filmed there. And I think, if you can dream it, you can do it. So in that sense, it is a projection of how we see mobile internet and mobile communication evolving. It is quite critical that we get a very quick ramp up in the beginning of the network launch. We have to, from early on, from the start on, think about the mass market. Typical early adopter segments in many cultures is youth, under 25, but also the traditional early adopters in technology, if you like, which is the corporate segment. Here, I think that the bandwidth will enable, if you like, a webification of the corporate processes. We as an industry need to make sure that we work with the software providing industry to make sure that we have mission critical applications that are mobile aware. It is, of course, important also remember when you talk about these different segments, corporate and consumer, that we as individuals are always in both segments. These segments will be time-based. I am in a segment for a certain time only, after which my needs change. We should not fall into the trap of the raiders of the lost killer application kind of thinking. I don't think that we will find one single application actually for any segment that will justify the bandwidth and the investment we need to do. I subscribe much more of this sort of killer cocktail thinking. But there will be common critical elements that I think are visible in all cultures and all segments related to location, to messaging, to entertainment, and to commerce. SMS, short message service, is a very good example of something where you drive the perception that the phone is something else than a phone. I think WAP also drives a similar thing. Early adopters love it, and WAP in this sense is an excellent trialing area for the industry to make sure that we are ready once the challenges that we have with WAP are sorted out, that the other processes that are behind are working. When you talk about when is mobile internet going to happen, because I think that's the question we are all asking ourselves. We need to consider three different aspects here. It is, when am I as a consumer going to be ready to change my behavior, to use those services that are available? When is the infrastructure technically enabled to make it happen? And when do we have all of the applications needed so that I can pick my own cocktail, if you like? Adding mobility to the business model of internet, also from a technical standpoint, it's not that easy. There's a huge added value that can be provided by a company like Nokia, who has the visibility of what is in the terminal roadmap, what's going on in the network roadmap, has the experience of mobility, and therefore can put the pieces together and marry it with the business model of internet. I think that's really what M-Platform is all about. Small example, in internet an IP address is a physical location. In mobile internet, that IP address keeps wandering around in my pocket. Trust in the consumer eyes is of course the ultimate test. The consumer does have very, very high hurdle in terms of trust in making, for example, an e-commerce transaction. And there are not many brands that the consumer will trust in the transaction phase. And I do think that Nokia is a brand that radiates trustworthiness, and therefore I think we can play a key role in orchestrating the thing. It does not mean that we will do all of the different individual pieces, but I do think we have a catalytic role to play here. Right now the time is filled with opportunity. Short term, we just have to have the speed and the guts to make it happen. I think that the technology will be there. I think that the applications will be there. Will we be there as consumers? That's something that all of us individually have to decide.
I think the expectations of a lot of the people in the film are realizable in terms of simple services, SMS, text-based services. All of those are very realizable very soon, and we have a lot of them already. But when we come to services like video streaming, like the ability to surf the mobile internet, we're still very, very far from that. We overhyped WAP And there's a real danger here that we might overhype the next generation of mobile data. We need to manage people's expectations and then hopefully beat them, not raise them too high. One of the problems with the industry so far is that it's tended to emphasize very sophisticated, very high-end services. What restaurant can I find? Can I get my stock quotes? If you look at the experience of Japan, if you look at the experience of iMode, the killer application is entertainment. And the thing I took out of the video is how much people want to be able to use their mobile phone for entertainment purposes. One of the mistakes which analysts like myself make is that we tend to focus a lot on technology. That tends to be what excites us and what excites our investors. But ultimately, the technology is a means to an end, and the end is basically services and applications. Frankly, if the services and applications are not going to be there, the market for Nokia, for Ericsson, for people like that is not going to be there either. And I think, one of my concerns is that so far we have not seen a range of services and applications which is really exciting the consumer. The message from mobile is that it will always surprise you. Something will come from left field. But right now, the kind of services that the operators have been offering, I would say, are too traditional and too narrow. One of the things that's become very clear from the Japanese experience is that if you open up the content market, if you open up the services market, things will take you by surprise and user rates will go up significantly. In 10 years' time, the mobile information society is going to be ubiquitous. I'm absolutely a huge believer in mobile data longer term. However, I am somewhat disappointed by what we've had in the short term. In particular, I've been disappointed that the success of the Japanese experiment has not been translated to Europe. And frankly, I think what we all need to do is look very closely at what the Japanese did and make sure we learn the lessons. 3G will not fail, but that's a different thing from saying that some of the players won't fail. I think, for instance, within the mobile services market, it's very, very possible that in the future some of the smaller players will pull out. We'll see some M&A activity, some kind of convergence. But the market as a whole will not fail. Too much is invested. The one player I can certainly be confident about in the equipment side, particularly on handsets, is Nokia. It's got the critical mass, which means that it is going to be one of the long-term winners.
As analysts, we look to history and we see what lessons do we have in terms of what's made various services work. And if we look at GSM and mobile, it's been about freedom. We can all buy into the lifestyle concepts, people surfing and wanting to be away from the office, but still have access to their information. However, perhaps what's less tangible to the average person on the street are the business benefits that 3G can bring. And I think that was brought out quite well in the video, particularly looking at the restaurant owners, for example, using 3G for a whole host of applications to bring tangible business benefits. Today, in Europe, data services and non-voice services account for something like 4 to 5% as an average of revenues. By 2005, we expect data to account for at least 30%. We do a lot of survey work, and we ask people, are you interested in 3G? Are you interested in remote access to your database, video services, information services, content? And most people say they're not particularly interested. So what the industry has to do is to create a market. Not an easy thing to do. It has to do that by creating awareness, probably in the early days by subsidizing handsets, by giving people 3G devices and letting them play with them. That is why SMS has been such a huge success. If you look at the initiatives by many of the world's largest mobile operators, it's all about consolidation, coming together, scale. If you look at the infrastructure vendors, the handset manufacturers, it's all about selling in huge scale to drive down costs. To achieve that type of scale and all of the benefits that it brings, you've got to be looking at the consumer market. We suggest, for example, that today business users account for about 20% of the mobile customer base, but they generate almost half of all revenues. But the business market is just about saturated. The consumer market is far from saturated. If that side of the market doesn't happen and customers can't be encouraged to spend money, 3G business cases are going to have a tough ride. WAP has got a bad press. The good news is that most people haven't tried it yet. So let's hope next year when we have packet networks, GPRS in particular, the WAP experience will be very, very different, will be a lot better for consumers. The pricing should be a lot more attractive. Reliability should be a lot better. When you move to 3G, the stakes go up, and they go up significantly. You need to know that you can work with and trust your partners. I guess the question everybody is asking, not just Nokia, is what role will we play in the 3G world of the future? Nobody has made any money on this yet, apart from some of the infrastructure players. Nobody has used a single 3G application yet. Nobody has got a 3G device in their pocket. So we're right at the beginning. From any reasonable commercial point of view, everything's up for grabs.
I think the key messages that came across from the people we saw were, in the broadest sense, they wanted to use 3G to make their lives easier and to make them more enjoyable. And I think there are three sorts of really applications that they talked about a lot. The first ones were really using the kind of consumer applications we've already got in other devices and putting them onto a mobile phone. So they wanted to listen to music, they wanted to watch football matches maybe on their mobile phone, or they wanted to use it as a camera to be able to record and send pictures to other people. The other thing they wanted to do was to use the internet, to really access the internet, either by, we had the one guy who wanted to distribute his own music to A&R firms via the internet, or we wanted people to play games and have access to the internet and prizes and things like that. And third, we had much more the business user who wanted synchronization with their calendar back in the office or their PC and things like that. If the mobile internet and 3G is successful, we will fairly quickly see the mobile phone as the preferred device for accessing the internet. You know, the number of phones connected to the internet will exceed the number of PCs connected to the internet pretty quickly. So that's a great position to be in. Now that's the good news. The bad news is the basic idea that as you change a technology generation, as you move to a new one, usually that upsets things in some way. Everyone immediately assumes this is the moment to get that market share we really should have had last time around but somehow didn't manage to get. Services and applications are going to be absolutely critical. If there are things you want to do, and if you can't do them easily, you're not going to bother and it's not going to work. I think to be really appealing, you're going to have to target particular segments of the population with localized services, personalized services and applications, and that's really what's going to make people think, hey, I just must have one of those. Because applications and content and services are going to be so much more important than they were for 2G, we will see the value chain changing, that we will see more value there, which is not a traditional area for a company like Nokia. And we may also see a lot of value going to the silicon providers, the semiconductor manufacturers who have all these complexities to cope with. So the equipment providers may do more of the running of the network. Who knows, it's a possibility. Or they're just providing the plumbing rather than being the architect. So again, you've got this question of who really captures the value. I think the expectations of the people in the film were surprisingly realistic. A lot of the things they're talking about are all things we're talking about being able to do either almost now or very soon. Very few people actually talked about location-based services, and I think that's one of the great attractions of the mobile internet, that, you know, what's the advantage over the fixed internet? It's that you're mobile and the phone knows where you are. So the kind of thing these people want to do, yes, in theory, they're very doable. Whether they're really exciting enough to make this a mass market and really meet up to the hype we're getting for the mobile internet, I'm not quite sure.
How do we look back at the internet now? We don't even think about the fact you spent your first time on the website, if you were there at the beginning, was going to a text-only, probably not color, no graphics type of web page. And now if you can't have animation on your web page, these types of things, then you can't hold the consumer's eye. What is 3G going to allow us to create that never would have existed before without it? I think one of the best messages of the film was how different and personalized 3G can be for people. It's really a mix of functionality, which is connectivity, high-speed connectivity to the network, with applications that can be tailored for every individual user. There's still people out there that say, mobile internet, don't see wide applications for it. And I think people underestimate sometimes just what a great variety of applications that we're going to have. This is an unprecedented deployment of technology worldwide. This is not something that's going to be done flawlessly the first time. So I think right now 3G is still very much in, can we get it up and running on time? The vendors that have complete solutions are able to be much more effective in this market than ones that don't. And consumers have spent years walking into stores saying, do you have it in this color? Do you have it in this size? What's the talk time? What's the battery life? 3-4 years from now, even next 2 years, it's going to be, what can I do with this phone? Does this one allow me to send pictures to my mom when I'm on vacation? Can I send a postcard with this one? Does this one have my email interface? How much memory does it have? What's its processing power? It's a whole different set of questions. A lot of these questions are going to be software dependent. Services and applications are the linchpin to the success. There'll be vendors that can make handsets. There'll be vendors that can make infrastructure. But just like we've seen with WAP, unless you can actually do something with it, unless the consumer can do something with it that's new, that's different, something they couldn't do before, there's no reason to use it. As software applications companies are created to address the need for new services for 3G, companies like Nokia are going to go after this market, as well as companies like Microsoft. And while they might not compete on all fronts with each other, this will definitely be new market opportunity to be created, new high growth market opportunity being created that's going to bring in new competitors. You're going to see a lot more competition coming in from Asian players trying to reestablish themselves on a much more global basis. Right now, JP Morgan's forecasted that we're going to see 2002 as the real year when you see a significant amount of networks being launched. And we think that most of these networks are going to be launched in modest fashion. Initially, I think it's going to be smaller launches focused on some of the most densely populated areas where they can offer a variety of services to the business community, to consumers, to a very dense population, because that's where they're going to be able to get the most return initially on their capital. Some things on the film are definitely right around the corner, and other things I think are still a couple years away.
3G at this moment in time is more in the boardroom from a perspective of planning, of network architectures, of the handset devices. I think the applications development community, which is really what's going to drive this market forward, is still at a very early stage in terms of developing the specific services and applications that you and I as end users want, be it in the entertainment fund-based area or in the corporate application environment. In the next 12 months, we will get more data-based of applications, but predominantly be text-based and maybe some form of picture messaging in a black and white format or maybe even a colored format. But actually getting digitalized types of pictures, getting streaming video down your specific handset or whatever the end terminal device is, I still think that we are still some ways off. I'm still a very big believer in 2G technology, i.e. the digital technology of today. I'm also a very big believer that 2.5 generation technologies such as GPRS, are very important enablers and also enablers for third generation. Why are they enablers for third generation? Because of the fact that they can act as enabling platforms for services and applications where operators can test, trial, experiment with different types of services and applications that can then fly on 3G. SMS is a phenomenon in itself, as is iMode in Japan, and those are really the two pinnacle areas where we can point toward and say mobile data is going to happen. If we can add in SMS not just normal chat and text, but also images in the form of black and white images, color images, and potentially digital pictures over the next 18 to 24 months, that would also further excite the marketplace. What's critical in that arena, though, is that who is the end user? And there's a 15 to 25-year-old age group, which I believe are going to be the early adopters of whatever types of service and applications are going to fly. Those guys are really going to go after the entertainment and fun-based types of applications. There's no one killer application out there. Every end user requires distinct or specific types of services and applications to be tailorized to its needs. If the services and applications ain't there, and if the services and applications ain't easy to use and easy to understand, then 3G, 2.5G, mobile data, mobile internet, mobile information society is just not going to happen. WAP will become much more important in the next 12 months than it has been in the last 12 months, and that would be a platform upon which other services and applications could actually develop. The real question here is that now we're moving into 2.5G or into 3G 12 months thereafter, whether that connecting people in the data environment is going to happen or not. The most important areas are understanding the end user, having a smell, a taste, a touch and a feel of what that end user wants, what makes that end user tick, and more importantly, making specific devices that are easy to use and easy to understand. If there's anyone out there that understands the end user, it's Nokia.